I think I'm live. Am I live? I'm live. Welcome on in to the Cleveland Browns report. A bit of an abrupt landing, but you know what? The sooner the better. Let's talk Brownies, ladies and gentlemen, as Jerry Jeudy has received, I would say, a major, massive, huge, we can mad lib the shit out of this thing, contract extension with the Cleveland Browns, and I've got mixed emotions on it. I think Jerry Jeudy is a good player. I don't want this to come across as I think Judy's bad, so this is an awful contract. No, I don't think Jeudy is bad. I don't think Jeudy is worth gambling $58 million on because through 4 seasons, he has not looked like a receiver anywhere near $19 million a year. Now, if he has a great season, awesome. Like, you've got yourself a pretty good deal probably. But my whole point, and I know I'm kind of just jumping right into this, so, birth by fire for everyone watching right now, is let's just say Jerry Jeudy has 1,050 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think we'd all agree that'd be a pretty good year, right? That'd be an above-average season. That would be worthy of, if he was a free agent at that point, maybe $21 million. So you're saving about $2 to $3-ish million by extending him now compared to if he has that kind of season. To me, the savings of $1, $2, $3-ish million per year does not outweigh the risk of what if Jerry Jeudy just, unfortunately, doesn't take that big next step that we all believe he can because through 4 years, he has not been a 1,000-yard guy. That's really the nuts and bolts, and I'm kind of just letting it all out right now because I'm arguing with some guy named Jameis #1 fan season over on Twitter. But sure, if Jerry Jeudy has a 1,500-yard season and 12 touchdowns, this is going to be an all-time steal of a contract. And we're all rooting for that, right? But I just don't think that he has shown us enough to believe he's worth that big of a gamble. How big of a gamble? I mean, it's $41 million guaranteed. Now, I'm not really sure if that 41 includes his 5th-year option this season, because if it does, you can eliminate $13 million from 41, so it's really about $28 million guaranteed. And if that's the case, then I kind of look at this as a 2-year, $28 million extension, which would be $14 million a season, and I love that a whole lot more. So I'm still waiting to get the finalized numbers on the extension for Jerry Jeudy. All right. I know we just kind of jumped right into it, but I do want to give some shout-outs to everyone watching at the moment. Joshua Miller, cool guy called Zone, changed his profile picture. That's going to take some time getting used to. Time Man the Buckeye changed his as well. You guys got to coordinate a little bit better. You can't both change in the first week. I need to see familiar faces in the chat, and, well, your profile pictures are your faces to me. DeBrose is here. Long time no see. Really good to see you back. I hope you're having a good day. Joshua Miller is starting things off with a $2 super chat. Jeudy is now the Cooper replacement after 2024. Yeah, Josh with a good, decent take here of you just gave Jerry Jeudy a good, boatload of cash. With Amari Cooper entering the final year of his contract, does that mean there's no more money to go around the receiver room? And the Browns are kind of preparing for a Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, maybe bring back Elijah Moore, and a rookie wide receiver room in 2025. We're probably getting ahead of ourselves right now. Let's just get through 2024 first before we start really pulling teeth and worrying about whether or not Amari Cooper comes back. God forbid Cooper has an awful season. I don't think we're going to be too concerned about that. But if he has a great season, I got to envision the Browns are going to have some way to bring him back because they're not just going to let him walk out the door if he has a phenomenal year and it looks like he's playing his best football right now. Josh, appreciate your super chat, though. Shout out your city for me. John E., Chat Sports legend, is here. John, good to see you, man. Long time no see. I hope the offseason has been treating you well. Let me know where everyone is tuned in from, though. We're going to jump into a live Cleveland Browns report in just a few moments. I know that Ray Bidding is in Phoenix. William is in Columbus. I've got Jake Heath in Sacramento. John E., happy spring. Good to see you. I guess it is spring, right? Spring is March 20th. Tomorrow. Yeah, my brother's birthday. I know. Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday to your brother.
My New Year's resolution this year was I'm sending birthday presents to everyone. because everyone loves their birthday.
That's a good one.
So I sent him a birthday present with explicit instructions. I think it's going to come before your birthday. Don't open it. Because I am a huge believer of you don't open things before that day.
Facts.
Like if you get a, Easter card, a birthday card, you wait till that day to open it.
Correct.
You don't want to ruin the fun.
What are your thoughts on one Christmas present / one holiday present the night before?
Yeah, I didn't grow up in that kind of household.
Yeah?
The Peterson household did not do a Christmas Eve present exchange.
See, we did.
It was a Christmas morning affair.
We would do one, but it was my mom always giving all of us a pair of pajamas that we would wear. Like that, it was you always knew that's what it was going to be, but, on that regard. Keep shouting out your city. Carlos checking in from Springfield. We got Irish Spaghetti in Mentor. We got Nova Scotia checking in from Rob Watson. Toledo.
Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby's home.
Yes, it is.
Alliance, Ohio. Let's see. North Dakota's here. DeBrose is in Cleveland. Josh is in Michigan making spaghetti for the family. Trying to decide what I'm going to make for dinner tonight. We've been a much more like cook-in family the last few weeks. Big Tex, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate you. I forgot these at my desk. And now we're ready to roll. Okay, Ray Bidding, $5 super chat. How do you think the Browns team is shaping up versus the rest of the AFC North at this point in time? Ray, really good question. Let's kind of run through the AFC North, starting with the kind of off-season acquisitions. The Ravens lost a lot of guys. They lost Patrick Queen. They lost Geno Stone. They lost some really key pieces on that defense. They may lose Devion Clowney. Look at this. Trace Gerard just on the spot. But they brought back Justin Madubuike. And they brought in Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry is probably the biggest name of the bunch. I'm not overly concerned about Derrick Henry joining the Ravens. And I'm sure I will eat those words in a few months. But, Trace, we talked about this last week, and I know you were doing other duties here at Chat Sports, and we had Tyler Smith hanging out with us, so it was an adventure getting the show off the ground.
Yeah, I miss getting to be with the Browns fans on Tuesdays.
But there's not a long history of running backs 30 years older running for 1,100 or more yards.
I have seen that
now,
as well.
I kind of cherry-picked 1,100, but I feel like with 17 games now, getting to 1,005 yards is not like this awesome accomplishment like it used to be. So the last guy to do it was LeGarrette Blount in 2016. So I'm not very concerned about the Derrick Henry addition to the Ravens, but I'm not going to stand here and act like, the Ravens are going to suck next year. No, they're going to be a well-oiled machine. They always replenish their needs in the draft, and they draft better than anyone, honestly. So when it comes to the Ravens, I don't think they dramatically improve, but they're still going to be a big thorn. The Bengals, they lost a couple of guys, right? Now, we'll see what happens with T. Higgins. That definitely would sway things, but they made some usual Bengals-esque signings. I can't believe they only got Geno Stone for $7.5 million a season. That feels like a major steal. I'm jealous of the Zach Moss signing. I wish that happened in Cleveland. Sheldon Rankins is going to replace DJ Reader in the middle. And ultimately, I think the Bengals had a pretty par for the course free agency thus far. Now, if they are able to move on or trade T. Higgins for a first, that's going to really change my opinion based on what they use for that first-round pick. But for now, I think the Bengals are kind of where they left off, which is they just got to get Joe Burrow healthy, just like how the Browns got to get Deshaun Watson healthy. That is priority number one. That's the free agent signing they want. Some voodoo witchcraft doctor to walk in and get Joe Burrow's wrist back to 100% overnight. Steelers. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? They signed Russell Wilson, who I think a really good value, right, in terms of where Russell Wilson ranks quarterback-wise and what he's being paid. They're very far apart. I don't think Russell Wilson is the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League. I would put him around somewhere between 16 to 20-ish. I don't think 17.
I think that's fair.
I don't think he's a top half quarterback anymore. I don't think he's a bottom 3 quarterback though. So $1.2 million for what if let's just say it is like the 18th best quarterback. That's a really good value, right? My thing is, you don't get wins for value. They don't go at the end of the season and go well, you paid Russ this much. He played that well. We're going to give you an additional 2 more wins. No. Russell Wilson lost a lot of games in Denver for a reason. He was not that good. He just wasn't. And the value sounds really fun in the offseason. no one in the Steel City is going to be giving a shit about the value in November if they are 4-10. No one's going to be going, well, we only paid him $1.2 million. I don't know how you guys can be upset. It's great value, though. What does it matter if you're not winning games? You know what I mean? So they were able to bring over Patrick Queen. I think that's a really good signing for the Steelers. I think Queen's a good linebacker. What's up, Trace?
I'd say the same argument you just made about Russell Wilson, I would make about the Justin Fields trade. Like, great trade in terms of only a 6th-round pick, conditional, could be a 4th. But is he going to be good? Is he going to win you games? We don't know. I think it's the same exact argument.
It would be like if you paid a lot for Justin Fields, like in trade value, and he sucked. It's a double whammy. You gave up a lot, and you wasted time, meaning you wasted the 2024 season. If Russell Wilson doesn't work out, it's not as big of a whammy because you're not setting yourself back in the future. You're just wasting your season. So I would say, to go back to the super chat we had from Ray Bidding, how do you think the Browns team is shaping up? I think it's still the Ravens to beat. I'd put the Browns second. If the Bengals are healthy, I put them third. You can make an argument to flip-flop the Bengals and Browns, and this is probably a little bit of bias coming in. And then I put the Steelers at 4. I think that's about par for the course. And the Browns were able to take down Joe Burrow last year. They've had no issue doing that before. So, yeah, Burrow is definitely a better quarterback, I would say, right now than Deshaun Watson. But the Browns' defense, that's who Joe Burrow plays against. Deshaun Watson's not playing edge rusher when Burrow's on the field. He doesn't give a shit about Deshaun Watson. He cares about Myles Garrett. And that guy's had his number. Same with Denzel Ward and the rest of the crew. Brad with a $5 super chat. Let's go, Brad. How did the Steelers get Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick, but we decide to get Jameis Winston? I think the Bears...
Hey, I'm not here for the Jameis disrespect. Jameis Winston is the most interesting man in football.
Dude, you can't not be excited about just the clips they're going to come out of Jameis.
You're at least going to have
fun. The audio
fun.
bits, the visuals are going to be impeccable.
No matter what, you're going to have fun with Jameis Winston on your team.
He's going to be fun in training camp. He's going to have some, when players are, leaving the field and the media's trying to, get them to do silly stuff, answer those questions.
The quick little favorite dog.
Right,
What animal would you be?
They walk up and they're like, what's wrong with this sentence? Jameis is going to be hysterical.
It's going to be,
He's going to make the month of August bearable.
Absolutely.
Because you think August is fun because football is back. What's my mantra? It is not back until Thursday, NFL Week 1. That goes for all football levels. How did the Steelers get Justin Fields for just a 6? I think, and I've got good reason to believe, the Bears took a lesser offer to accommodate Justin Fields and put him in a situation where he wanted to go and that they felt would best suit him. So I don't think if the Browns offered a 6, they would have gotten Justin Fields.
I do know that the Saints offered a 5th. And because Justin Fields wanted to go to the Steelers, that's why he ended up in Pittsburgh. So that's, some other context. Other teams did check in and try and make offers.
Right. And if this was a Bears show for a moment, I would say, as the Bears GM, Ryan Poles, your job is to do what's best for the team. So on one hand, why wouldn't you take a 5th over a 6? I also think that locker room really liked Justin Fields. So maybe it's not that bad to go from a 5th to a 6 and not have, just to earn some brownie points with the rest of the locker room. You know what I mean? Just so Fields leaves on good terms with a lot of people and the whole team doesn't hate your guts for trading him. I think that's worth going from a 5th to a 6. Now, I want to give you guys another question here. Should the Browns go running back at pick 54? What are your thoughts? Yes or no? We're going to talk about this later on in the show, so a little bit of foreshadowing here, but I do want to get your opinion on whether or not Cleveland should go running back at pick 54. Let me know down below in the comment section. Do we have the Bernie Kosar weigh in, Mr. Trace? Okay. $10 super chat gets you entered. That's all. Perfect. Yep, there it is. Thank you very much. Trace working on the fly. Quick reminder that the entire month of March, we are doing a giveaway where if you send in a $10 super chat, you'll be entered for this Bernie Kosar autographed helmet. I'll put it closer to you guys here. We're going to do that on our final show of the month of March, which is going to be a week from today. So if you want to be entered into that, $10 super chat, and we'll add you to this Bernie Kosar autographed helmet giveaway. So $10 super chat. We're doing that all month long, including today. But the giveaway, the drawing, will be next Tuesday. Josh, my man, who gets Hard Knocks 2024? Any team with Winston? Trace, can you find the Hard Knocks eligible teams for me, and then I'll try to make a decision. Remember, there are some things that that will remove you from it. If you hire a new head coach, and if you were just on it, fire away.
The 3 teams, there's only 3 this year.
There's only 3 that fit the criteria.
Denver Broncos, Chicago Bears, New Orleans Saints. You can go ahead and write in the Bears with Caleb Williams. That's happening.
That seems very likely.
Keenan Allen.
I do know that teams can sometimes really say no to it.
Yeah, you can.
And I don't think the Bears want to do it whatsoever. So I think the Bears would make the most sense of all 3 of those. If they were to say no, maybe Denver because of Sean Payton.
Yeah,
I just think that might be a bit more nationally appealing. I'm sorry to your Saints.
No, I think last year it would have been more appealing for the Saints because you have, the new year with Derek Carr. You have Jameis Winston, Jamal Williams, some entertaining guys. Jimmy Graham coming back, Michael Thomas, after all that. So last year it felt like it was much more intriguing for the Saints. It feels like it's the Broncos because they could also be a team that gets a new quarterback. That's something else to think about.
Right, no doubt about it. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's show. The latest news and rumors, which is kind of funny, just to be bluntly honest with you guys. I had planned a whole news and rumors show, and we were going to talk about how Jerry Jeudy had his contract restructured and it added void years onto it, which I thought would be a little bit odd if you didn't plan on extending him. So we had a whole show planned about how I think the Browns might be extending Jeudy, and then they did it today. So Andrew Berry really cucked me on that one, not going to lie. I was a little upset, but we're going to kind of just roll with it. So without further ado, let's jump into the latest news and rumors and then an updated draft targets video along with a mailbag, #Browns or Super Chat to be on the screen. Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here, breaking down the latest news and rumors on the Brownies, starting with Jerry Jeudy getting a 3-year, $58 million contract extension, which we're going to touch on later on in the show. But we did put out an entire video covering this already on the channel. So if you want to go watch that for a little bit more in-depth, feel free to do so. But just quick glance here, it's a 3-year, $58 million extension. $19.3 million on average. That makes him the 18th highest paid wide receiver. Guaranteed 41, but I'm hearing that 41 may include his 5th-year option already. And if that is the case, then I kind of look at this as a 2-year 41 minus 13, $28 million contract extension. If it's a 2-year, $28 million, that's a pretty good deal. That's a really good bargain, I'd say, for the Browns if it really comes down to exactly that. But my initial reaction to this was I wasn't crazy about it because I felt like through 4 seasons in Denver, Jerry Jeudy had not played well enough to get a $19 million contract extension. And sure, if he plays really well, we'll look back at this and go, this was an all-time steal. What a great job by the Cleveland Browns. But if he doesn't live up to it, man, you're on the hook for a big contract for a guy that hasn't even played a snap for you before you gave him that deal. So ultimately, the Browns gave Jerry Jeudy, gave the Broncos, I should say, a 5th and a 6th rounder for Jeudy. And listen, I think Judy's got real potential. If we go back in time a little bit to the last couple of weeks in Denver in 2022, keep in mind, 2 years ago, he ended the year on a really high note, 523 yards, 3 touchdowns. That stretch right there is what made Jerry Jeudy such a popular trade target last offseason and why Cleveland has had a crush on him for over a year at this point. And if you take that stretch of games he had and prorate it over an entire season, we're looking at a 1,400-yard, 8-touchdown guy. And if that's really what Jerry Jeudy puts up this year, then this is going to be an all-time steal by Andrew Berry. But to me, when it really comes down to it, I just feel like the Browns are making a big gamble here, right? That Jerry Jeudy will live up to this extension and save them money in the future. if Jerry Jeudy puts up 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns, let's say he had that stat line, okay, and he hits free agency, he's going to make maybe $20 million a season. So the Browns are saving about $1 million by getting it done now compared to after the season. The savings just don't outweigh the risk in my eyes. If it was a smaller contract, then yeah, who wouldn't be about that? But to me, this is a big enough contract where if it doesn't work out, because Jerry Jeudy hasn't been a 1,000-yard guy before, then you're on the hook for a big contract for a player that hasn't played at that level yet. And I know people are quick to toss out the David Njoku example. Actually, Trace, we're not doing this script right now, right? We're doing the next one. People are quick to toss out the David Njoku example as a reason to why this is going to work for the Browns, but David Njoku played a lot more games before he got that extension than Jerry Jeudy did. So I'm not going to make that apples-to-apples connection, and for me, I just don't feel like the extension is matching the production so far, and the savings you could have down the line don't outweigh the risk of what if he doesn't live up to that extension. All right, let's get into the originally scheduled programming on today's episode. Did Maurice Hurst leak that the Browns are playing in Brazil? I'm going to give this one fake news. So this made its rounds on Twitter. So let me just kind of clear the air a little bit here. Maurice Hurst hopped on the Cleveland Browns' own show, and he was a little bit uninformed and said, we're playing in Brazil this year. What he meant to say was, I read an article that from Peter King that Peter King believes the Browns are going to be playing in Brazil. Not that it's been a confirmed fact. So, no, the Browns are not guaranteed to be playing in Brazil because Maurice Hurst said that. Maurice Hurst just misunderstood what the rumors were saying, not that they were a guaranteed fact. Now, when we look at the Eagles' home opponents, because neither the Eagles or the Browns know who is playing in that Brazil game yet, although with the NFL owners meeting coming up soon, they'll have a better idea in a very short amount of time. I think you can rule out the Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders. We don't often see division matchups across the pond or overseas. The Browns, the Falcons. Let's go right back to that really quickly, Trey. Sorry. The Browns and the Falcons are options, especially with Atlanta getting Kirk Cousins. They may want to put the Falcons in prime time. The Panthers and Jags are already playing overseas. So I look at it as the Browns, Falcons, Packers, Steelers. Those are the 4 teams that could be playing against Philadelphia in Brazil week 1. And to me, 25% chance just based off that math alone. I think it's more likely going to be the Packers. I think the Packers, you may not like this, but let's just kind of be honest here, are probably a bigger brand worldwide than the Cleveland Browns. And I think for the first game in Brazil, they've got the Eagles. They may want to put another big franchise brand out there like the Green Bay Packers. And to be honest with you guys, I go back and forth on whether or not I want to see the Browns play in Brazil. I'm kind of in the mindset, and this will probably change by tomorrow, of F it. Like, let's play in Brazil, right? You get an extra mini bye. You play on that Friday of NFL Week 1. So you got a whole extra few days to rest compared to Week 2, which likely would be on the road. So it would be back-to-back road games, which is a bit of a downer. But you don't have to go play in Philadelphia because you're playing them at Brazil, right? That's one of the home games for the Eagles against the Browns. So I don't mind passing up an opportunity to play at the Link because that's always a tough place to go and knock off the Eagles at. So there's pros and cons to both sides here, but I kind of think it would be awesome to be a part of some NFL history, be a part of the game in Brazil, and if you win that game, man, vibes are high to start off the year. Plus, if you unfortunately come out short on that game, well, there's a good track record of the teams that play on that Thursday of NFL Week 1, because they have that extra bit of rest before they play in Week 2, they tend to dominate Week 2. So do you want to play in Brazil? Yes or no? Give me your opinion down below in the comments section, whether or not you want to see the Browns travel down to Sao Paulo. All right, let's move on to the second story here. Deshaun Watson, is he throwing this week? This is a for Bernie heads. Yeah, it looks like Deshaun Watson is already back to throwing, which is really positive to see. So the origin for this comes from Mary Kay Cabot. Watson, according to her, can begin throwing lightly as soon as today, Tuesday, March 19th, as I film this during our live show. Now, his quarterback coach, Quincy Avery, and then tight end David Njoku are currently with him in L.A. He also had Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey meet him down in L.A. He's in L.A. because that's where the doctor, Neil Atrache, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, he lives and where the surgery was done, and he's doing his rehab there with him. So that's why he has been in L.A. pretty much since he got the surgery in November. He came back to Cleveland briefly a few weeks later, but other than that, he has primarily been in L.A. I think it is crucial for Watson to be at 100% by the time training camp rolls around. You've got a new offensive coordinator in Ken Dorsey coming in. You do not want to skip a beat. You don't want to be on the sideline holding a playbook, and then by the time week 1 rolls around, you're trying to just then learn the new offense. No, make the mistakes, make the install late July in Greenbrier and in August in Berea, not in Sao Paulo week 1, Brazil. Also, Deshaun Watson historically does not get off to very good starts. Look at his career in the first 4 games of every season combined. He's got a 7-12 record, 30 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Compared to games 5 through 8 in his entire NFL career, he's got a 12-5 record, 43 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. He's got a much better record later on in the year. He does not get off to great starts. And I don't want to see that really bleed into later in the season if he's just starting to pick things up late August. And that's just going to push everything back into the season a little bit more. And with how loaded and crowded the AFC is, that's going to put you behind the 8 ball. So it is crucial in my eyes that Deshaun Watson is 110% when training camp opens up. Maybe he's limited in training camp or in mini camp and OTAs. That's fine with me. They're basically just doing cardio out there anyway. But for me, I think it's really important that Watson gets back to throwing soon. And it is not a mentality of, as long as he's ready for week 1, it's fine. No, it won't be fine. So what's your confidence level in Watson for 2024? Scale it 1 to 10. Personally, I'm at a 7, right? If 10 is he's going to be back to his 2020 form, and 1 is he's going to be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, I would put myself at a 7. I do think there are very good reasons on both ends of the aisle to believe he will return to that 2020 form, and he will not return to that 2020 form. I've always been a half-glass full kind of guy when talking about sports, and I look at what Deshaun Watson did the last 2 games he started for Cleveland, which was 432 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, including a perfect second half against the Ravens, and he led them down the field for a game-winning field goal by Dustin Hopkins. So, yeah, I'm going to be a little bit on the optimistic side here, and listen, for the other side, I can understand where you're coming from. It's just past the anniversary of the Browns trading for Deshaun Watson. I don't think if you told anyone on that day this would be how things went the next 2 years, people would say it's been a great success so far. But this was always a long-term investment, right? This was not just getting a quarterback like Peyton Manning or Kirk Cousins or Tom Brady for 3-4 years at the end of their career. No, the Browns are hoping that Deshaun Watson will be here for 10 years. So I'm not going to panic too much after year 1 where he was suspended for most of the year and year 2 where he was injured for most of the year. Now I want to get into what I originally planned on talking about in today's video, which is Jerry Jeudy a long-term piece? I, this morning when scripting the show, said 2 Bernie heads because I saw the writing on the wall of, wait a minute. The Browns just restructured Jerry Jeudy's contract, and they slapped 4 void years on it. Maybe they plan on extending him and fulfilling those void years with actual years of service because they view him as a long-term piece. And then sure enough, they make him the 18th highest paid wide receiver at $19.3 million. Now, I had kind of, talked about this at the beginning of the video, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. My subtle takeaway from this list right here is this could be Amari Cooper's final year in Cleveland. It is the last year of his contract. I was always under the belief that if Cooper played well, the Browns would be wise, and they had done it before to bring him back. I mean, Andrew Berry does love bringing back guys on one-year contracts. He does it every single offseason. Clowney, Zadarius Smith on a 2-year deal. Maurice Hurst, Shelby Harris, Walker, Taki. He's got a long track record of not being afraid to re-sign a veteran on a 1-year deal. But when you gave Jerry Jeudy that big chunk of change, now I'm concerned that there may not be enough to go around for all the other wide receivers like Amari Cooper. So let me know, do you like the contract extension? Yes or no? My final thought on this is just I want to be as concise as possible because I know that sometimes when big moves like this happen, I can kind of get caught up in the emotion of it. But to me, it is simply you are gambling $19 million, we'll call it a season, on Jeudy making a big leap forward in this season, which maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if he does, how much money was he going to make in free agency next year that you saved by signing him this year? Was it a $22 million contract? And if that's the case, you're saving $3 million a year by doing it now. To me, $3 million in savings or $2 million, whatever that number is, because I don't think it's much bigger than that, isn't worth the very real risk of flushing $19 million down the drain because Jerry Jeudy doesn't have that big breakout year Cleveland is banking on. I would just let the year play out. And if you end up paying him $21 million next March, okay, I can live with that. But you may be thanking yourself in the future if Jerry Jeudy does not have a great year and you don't have to re-sign him at all. All right, let's wrap up the show by picking a card. We got Trizzy Trace on the 1s and 2s. All right. Which contract, I beg your pardon, which card do you want to go with?
I'm going to go with the 7 of diamonds today.
7 of diamonds? Okay. We're doing this live right now. And Paul says you're not understanding the contract, bud. This includes the $13 million fifth-year option. The extension doesn't start until 2025. He's through 2027 is what I read. So 2025, 2026, 2027. But I don't really understand what that matters with him being a free agent next year anyway. What'd you say?
I went 7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds? 3 of clubs.
Let's see it.
I was thinking this number. 4 of hearts. 4 of hearts. All right. Levi Mayfield got it. We will sign off. We will see you guys with another Browns report in just a few days. So tomorrow. So make sure you check back here on the channel. Okay. Paul says this extension does not kick until 2025, which that's just not that's true, but that's how all extensions work, right? That's the whole point of extending a contract. 2024 this year, and then you tacked on 3 more years, 2025, 2026, 2027. I don't know what that has to do with me having this opinion of the savings of what he could be making if he has a great year do not outweigh the risk of if he doesn't have a good year and you're stuck with a pretty large contract. All right. Max T, what's going on, Max? It's been a little while, I feel like. T-Men still hanging. Thanks for still covering the offseason. We are here. Good to see Max T and the rest of Joel, I believe. Yep, Joel Thompson as well. Offseason's fun. It could be a bit slow at stretches if we're just kind of, keeping it a buck here. I feel like the last week of March and the first week of April are a little bit of, can we just get to the draft now?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Sometimes there is too much time where you're like, well, I can't stay this excited for the draft for this long, so I'll come back mid-April. And it's like, I get that.
Facts.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you planned a trip. You go through different stages of the excitement leading up to the trip. And the week, 2 weeks before the trip, that's your peak excitement. And then when you first make the trip plan, you're super excited.
And then when you get 24 hours before, you're stressing like crazy about it.
So a month out here. Chubathon, are the Browns playing in Brazil? Maybe. But no, they are not confirmed to be playing in Brazil. It is simply a misquote from, not even a misquote, just an inaccurate statement from Maurice Hurst saying we are playing in Brazil as if he was leaking something, but he wasn't. He just didn't understand that was just a rumor, not the gospel. And it does kind of go to show sometimes that I kind of wonder how much like NFL league smarter your average fan is. I'll say your above average fan is compared to the players. And I say that because as fans, we have the time in the day to cover all 32 teams, right? To keep tabs on them. Yep. We're able to watch Red Zone. Yep. When your team ends, when the Browns game ends, you can go to the next game at 4:30.
Yep.
Browns players, they get to watch one game. Yep. That's the game they play in. So, like, they don't this is not just the Browns, but, like, in general, all players, like, they don't have the opportunity to watch other teams and likely keep up with the news as much as we do because they're so busy in the season with doing player shit. Like working out and watching film all day, every day until Sunday.
Well, and it makes you think like sometimes when these players see these rumors, they're like, "Oh, this is true." They don't know. They don't know like what are fan blogs versus what's like Adam Schefter.
I'll add one more thing. As someone who went to college in the South at Tennessee, there is a big difference between NFL in the North and NFL in the South. Right? It's college football in the South. Where are most NFL players from? The South. Like Georgia, Florida, Texas. That's college football territory. I think there is a lot of players that get to the NFL and they only really start taking an interest in the NFL then.
When they get drafted.
That's
because their favorite team.
Because like people that live in Alabama, they don't really care about the NFL. Like there's some Falcons or Saints fans around, but like it's not as big as the Crimson Tide.
When you have the South, like Alabama and Mississippi are great examples. Yeah. You have Auburn and Alabama, no NFL team. You have Mississippi State and Ole Miss, no NFL team. Mm-hmm. Like
those are the NFL teams.
Yeah.
So when they get to the NFL, they're not as well versed in the NFL world as us fans are because we've always loved the NFL. So that's my TED Talk. I would love to just like sit down with like an average NFL fan or NFL player and be like, how much, like for example, to really get into it, there was that player, Puka Nacua. He did not know the Detroit Lions played indoors.
Are you serious?
He went, when the Rams went to Detroit, he came dressed for cold weather.
That's hilarious.
When he left the locker room to go warm up.
That's so funny.
I couldn't imagine not knowing. The Lions have always, they're an indoor team.
Well, and on top of that,
how do you not know that?
Did the coaches
they don't always watch NFL.
At no point did the coaches or did any of the staff be like, hey guys, don't worry about packing the cold weather stuff. It's going to be inside. Like, y'all will be good. Like, it's crazy that none of that happens.
Paul,
to your point, too.
Dude, Paul, he is getting $19 million a year. It's a 3-year, $58 million extension. 58 divided by 3. I don't know what Paul Provin is trying to say here. Unless I'm speaking Chinese. 58 divided by 3 is $19.3 million. That is the new contract for him after 2024. The guaranteed money may be up for debate because if that $41 million includes the current 5th-year option he's on, then it's really $28 million. But there's a 3-year, $58 million extension. That's $19 million a season for 2025, 2026, and 2027. Like, this is not rocket science. Okay. So, with that being said, let's talk about some draft targets. After the first big wave of free agency, who could the Browns be targeting in the NFL draft now that they've kind of filled out some of the holes on their roster? I'm going to turn this fan on. Starting to sweat like a dog in a Chinese restaurant.
Hey, guys, if you're pumped up for the NFL draft, give me a like on this video. We have 44 likes. Can we get to 50 likes before we get this segment going? That'd be sick. Also, that was a really good analogy.
Dude, it's one of my favorite movies.
That was awesome.
Yeah, definitely get you canceled now. But name that movie, Christmas movie. It's one of my favorite lines. Just a very random line that's hysterical.
I want to say Christmas Vacation because it's one of those kind of jokes, but I know it's not.
No, it is Arnold Schwarzenegger and there's two. I like 2 Christmas movies that are under the radar. That one and then one with Matthew Broderick. Deck the Halls.
Yes, great one.
Deck the Halls is with Matthew Broderick and what's his face from Always Sunny? Frank. What's Frank's name in Always Sunny? You're making awful radio right now.
This is really bad.
This is really bad.
I'm not going to Google it.
I can't look at
DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
I almost said Tommy DeVito.
Yes. And then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger in Minnesota. He's getting the Turbo Man for his kid. Deck the Halls and what's the one? I like this
Jingle
movie.
All the Way.
Jingle All the Way.
Yes.
I can't remember my own favorite movie of Christmas. Okay, are we ready?
Let's do
Enough about me talking about Christmas movies in March. Here we go. Let's jump into it. Coming up on today's show, we're going to run through some updated draft targets for the Browns after the first big wave of NFL free agency, where the Browns have essentially filled out most of their roster. They may make another small vet minimum signing, but I don't think you're going to see them spend big anywhere else. So we've got a pretty good idea as to what the Browns need to do in the draft to fill out the rest of their roster. Now, like last year, the Browns, in my eyes, bad time for hiccups, are going into the draft with not a whole lot of pressing needs, right? They don't need to get a certain guy to find a starter. Like, no one they're drafting, barring an injury, is going to be one of the 22 starters. So now they're kind of looking for depth pieces and just overall best player availables to kind of round out the roster. Now, before we look at any draft targets at these positions of need, make sure to subscribe to the channel because the NFL draft is the next big monster on the schedule, and I don't want you to miss a single thing when it comes to the Browns. I know not having a first-round pick is not the most exciting thing in the world, but that just means you got to dig a little bit deeper because we got to find these hidden gems without having a first-round pick just gifted to us. So without further ado, let's jump into it, starting with the running back. So I think this is probably the Browns' biggest need in the draft when talking about looking for guys that could make a real big impact week 1, week 2, week 3 compared to the other spots on the roster that they addressed a lot in free agency. Now, we're going to go off Mel Kiper's running back rankings and position rankings in general. This is just a starting point. This is definitely not the gospel by any means. Jonathan Brooks out of Texas is the number 1 running back. Jalen Wright out of Tennessee at 2. Then Trey Benson, Blake Corum, and Marshawn Lloyd round out the top 5. Let's take a closer look at Jonathan Brooks, who I like a ton. Unfortunately for Brooks, he was stuck behind Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, 2 Texas running backs who were drafted. So he never really got the opportunity to be the bell cow back until his final year in Austin, where he just went off. 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6.1 yards a carry. Unfortunately, he did suffer a torn ACL towards the end of that season. So there are some concerns about drafting a running back who comes off a torn ACL. But you shouldn't be too concerned as a Browns fan because what do you think happened to Nick Chubb at Georgia? To me, I look at Jonathan Brooks as if the Browns take him, this is more than just a complimentary back to Nick Chubb. This is a Nick Chubb replacement, right? This is we're going to let Chubb play out the rest of his year of his 2024 contract, and then we're going to turn it over to Jonathan Brooks, right? Jonathan Brooks is meant to be a first, second, and third down back. He can handle the workload. He's not one of the best running backs we've seen coming out of or coming into the NFL draft compared to recent drafts, but I don't think this is a pick you make if you don't have long-term belief that Jonathan Brooks is going to be your number 1 ball carrier. Now, as for the other guys on Mel Kiper's top 10 running back rankings, let's look at numbers 2 through 4. Jalen Wright, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, and Marshawn Lloyd. You can look at their stats from last year. I don't think you should draft players based purely off their stats in college. That is very, amateur-y. Like, these guys play different schedules and different conferences with different rosters and everything around it. It's not going to translate over the NFL. So don't look at stats too much as a way to decide which player to take over another. But they do have some level of meaning. My pick of these 4 here, and I know this is going to come across as a homer pick, but I'm going to go with Jalen Wright from my alma mater. 5'10", 210 pounds. He ran a 4.38 40-yard dash. I don't think he's going to go as early as Jonathan Brooks, so there's a chance the Browns could go get another player at pick 54 and circle back to Wright in round number 3. But he is a big play machine. Over 25% of his carries last year were for 10-plus yards. He is a home run waiting to happen. He's got not too much tread on his tires, but he also has enough experience where you can feel comfortable that he doesn't need a year or two just to learn the swing of things of playing the running back position in the NFL. I think Jalen Wright would be a really good pick to go along with Jerome Ford and Nyheim Hines early in the season. So let me know if you think the Browns should go running back at pick 54. Enough of me blabbling on here. What do you guys think? Should Cleveland address running back with their first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft? Switching gears, let's talk about the linebackers now. JOK, Jordan Hicks, and Devin Bush are likely your 3 starting linebackers, as the Browns, outside of JOK, pretty much turned this room upside down compared to last year. Here are Mel Kiper's top 10 inside linebackers for this year's draft. Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M is number 1. Junior Colson out of Michigan is number 2. Peyton Wilson from NC State, number 3. Jeremiah Trotter at 4 out of Clemson. And Cedric Gray out of UNC is number 5. So let's take a closer look at the top 2 guys here, Cooper and Colson. Because if we are looking for the Browns to draft a need pick based in 2024, I think linebacker would make the most sense at this spot. If we take a closer look at Colson's profile, he's 6'2", 238 pounds. He was the leader of the best defense in football last year, the team up north, and he is just a dominant run stopper. I don't think Junior Colson is going to be a linebacker that transcends the position and just completely takes over a team, but I think he is a reliable defensive player, kind of like Willie Gay I've seen tossed out there from the Kansas City Chiefs, of someone that you can rely on, count on, and is dependable to stop the run and not be a huge hazard in the middle of your defense. As for Edgerrin Cooper, he is 6'2", 230 pounds, very well-rounded. And I know Andrew Berry loves to find players that excel in one specific trait, as he puts it, a horse trait. But when I think about linebackers, I think about guys that need to do a little bit of everything at a very high level. Have to stop the run. Have to be good in coverage. Have to be able to pass rush, right? Those are the best linebackers right there. Edgerrin Cooper at Texas A&M did all 3 of those things. He is a playmaking linebacker. Whereas Junior Colson, he is more of a, I'm not going to get in trouble because I'm not going to put myself in a position to get in trouble. And that comes at a price of, I won't be a big playmaker. Whereas Cooper, he may make a mistake from time to time because he's trying to go for a big play. But I think Edgerrin Cooper would be a great addition to this Browns linebacker core that needs some youth injected into it and not just go off of one-year contracts year after year. Called me old-fashioned, but I love a defense with a solid middle linebacker, and then from there, you grow. I know that's not the way the NFL thinks anymore, but there's something about a good MLB baby. All right, let's talk about the wide receivers now. The Browns have Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore as their top 3 guys. What do they all have in common? Bueller? They traded for all 3 of those players. Specifically, Andrew Berry traded for all 3 of those players. The next 2 guys, Cedric Tillman, David Bell, players drafted by Andrew Berry. Are you noticing a trend here? Unless some really good wide receiver falls, I think Andrew Berry likes the wide receiver room the way it is because he handpicked them. He traded for all 3 guys. I don't really see a world where Andrew Berry goes, I know I just traded for all those guys. I have extended Jerry Jeudy, but I want to go use my top pick on a same position player and take snaps away from one of the 3 wide receivers I traded for, or give this rookie no snaps at all because I want to see Cooper, Jeudy, and Moore stay on the field the whole game. I don't think wide receiver, like we once thought it was, is the shoe-in pick at 54. I think after trading for Jerry Jeudy, he probably feels like he's got a really good receiving room for 2024. And maybe if a late fall happens, like a Xavier Worthy or an A.D. Mitchell comes down to him and he just can't pass on that type of talent, he'll go wide receiver. But I don't think it's the number 1 position he is searching for in this draft anymore, like we probably thought a few weeks ago. Plus, it's worth noting, if history tells you anything, there's going to be a run of wide receivers before pick 54. Like, we've got a pattern here. In 2019, 4 wide receivers went before pick 54 in the draft. Following year, 11, down to 7, then to 12, down to 6. And what do you know? This wide receiver class is loaded, and we may see 7 guys, I've heard, go as early as round 1. Toss in 3 in the beginning stages of round 2, and all of a sudden the top 10, top 11 receivers are gone. I don't see Andrew Berry just forcing a wide receiver pick at that spot because that's what everyone thinks he's going to do. So when we look at the top 10 wide receivers in Mel Kiper's rankings, maybe if one of these guys is there, I think Malachi Corley has a really high ceiling and low floor. Like, he could be a late round 1, early round 2 player. He could be a round 3 player. But I've got a feeling that we're going to see almost all these names be gone by 54. And if that's the case, he's not just going to take the next best receiver on his big board for the sake of taking a wide receiver. I think he feels pretty confident with the wide receiver room he has. Now, if you twist my arm and say, Petey, pick one that could be available at 54 that you like a lot, I think Xavier Legette out of South Carolina is a guy worth watching. 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. He is 6'1", 221 pounds, 4'3", 940. Let that sink in for a moment. 6'1", 220 pounds, and he ran a sub 440. Like, just that combination of size and speed, they don't come around every single year. In fact, the comp tossed out has been DK Metcalf because he is the first wide receiver to be 220 plus pounds and run a sub 440. So for a guy that had very little work his first few years in Columbia, from 2019 to 2022, he had a total of 42 receptions. He is still learning the position. And the Browns don't have the greatest track record of developing wide receivers recently, like Cedric Tillman and David Bell. Still early on Tillman, but maybe Andrew Berry feels like this player in a room with Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore, some more experienced players, can learn a ton from them. And if they move on from Cooper after this year, they've got his replacement from this last year's draft. So Xavier Legette would be my one guy to watch for at pick 54. But my gut's telling me they're not going wide receiver in round 2 anymore. We're going to look at some other draft targets in just a second here, but the deal continues on Fanatics where you can get this Browns USA themed t-shirt practically for free. I know I'm probably not supposed to say that, but it's $13, $14. So if you're looking to get some new Browns gear into your closet and you want to have an awesome Browns t-shirt to wear for a bunch of the barbecues, lake parties, and beach houses you're going to this spring and summer, go to chatsports.com/BrownsUSA. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Moving on here, let's talk about the defensive line. We'll kind of lump a little bit of edge rusher and defensive tackle together at this spot. I think they're pretty set at edge rusher. Will they add one in the draft? Sure, maybe. Will they prioritize it? After re-signing Zadarius Smith, signing Okoronkwo last offseason, drafting Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire the last 2 years, I don't think it's going to be priority number 1 for them with their first pick in the draft. Defensive tackles in a similar spot where they brought back Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst. They signed Quentin Jefferson. They draft Siaka Ika last year. They probably feel like they've got a really good defensive tackle room. But if someone falls to them that they just can't pass on, I could see defensive tackle moving up the draft board easier than defensive end because all those guys are living off of one-year contracts. Here's Mel Kiper's defensive tackle rankings. I'm a little surprised to see Jerzon Johnny Newton so low at number 5 out of Illinois. Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, Braden Fisk, Chris Jenkins. Of those top 4 guys, I think 1, maybe 2 goes in round 1, but it's not the best defensive tackle draft we have seen. I think you might see Berry target this spot more in early day 3 of the draft, which he is more known for doing compared to using a second-round pick on a defensive tackle. The one guy, though, that if he truly falls to pick 54, I'd be very happy to select would be Jerzon Newton. He was the best interior defensive lineman in FBS last year, 9 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks for the Fighting Illini. A little bit on the smaller side, but that's kind of how Andrew Berry likes him. 6'2", 295 pounds. He combined, like I said, for 103 pressures from 2022 to 2023, which was the most by any interior defensive lineman. So we saw how much Christian Wilkins got in free agency this past free agent. How much Christian Wilkins got in free agency last week, if I could speak English. The Browns were in on Wilkins. Josiah Newton, I'm not going to say he's the next Christian Wilkins, but if you're looking for a defensive tackle that's got some pass rush upside, he's your man. And that's someone the Browns were interested in, at least resume-wise, with Christian Wilkins. So maybe they turn to the draft to satisfy that itch they have. So who do you want to pick at 54? What name do you want to hear Roger Goodell read in Detroit on the second day of the 2024 NFL Draft? My dream, I'm not changing it. I'm going with Edgerrin Cooper for two big reasons. The first one is I think he's awesome. I think he kicks ass and he takes names, and he's one hell of a linebacker that can get after the quarterback. 8 sacks shows that. He can stop the run. He can help out in coverage. And the second reason is you need help at linebacker. Devin Bush is not good. Maybe Jim Schwartz and Mike Vrabel can fix him, but if they can't, I would feel a lot more comfortable if Edgerrin Cooper was on this team as a backup and maybe took over from him halfway through the season. So Edgerrin Cooper out of A&M is my dream pick at 54 for Cleveland. Off-season mode, let's pick a card. We got Trizzy Trace on the 1s and 2s. What's going on, Trizzy Trace?
Having a good day, and I'm feeling really lucky. So I'm going to roll with the Jack of Clubs.
Jack of Clubs. Go 10 of Diamonds.
I like it.
Here we go. 2 of Clubs.
Oh.
2 of Clubs. All right. That will do it for us on this edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone who takes time out of their day to come hang out with us here on the channel. We will sign off and see you guys later. Who do you guys want to pick at 54? Let me know. Jake Heath, I didn't mean to hide your message. I just accidentally clicked on it. You're not in any trouble. I'm sorry. Let's see. Cool Guy says Edgerrin Cooper. Time Hand says Marvin Harrison. Damn, that would be pretty cool. We got to come up with some major, really mean rumors about Marvin Harrison for him to fall to 54. Do you guys remember last year? Jalen Carter kind of had some character concerns coming out, and we're like, could he fall to round 2? No. That was a fun day, though. We have to admit that. Josh says trade down. It's a very real possibility. Like, Andrew Berry's got 5 picks right now. He may want to get an extra third. Maybe get a pick for next year's draft when he gets back in round 1. I wouldn't rule that out. He hasn't picked in round 2 since he took JOK. Like, no 2022, no 2023. This would be 3 years in a row that he has not picked in round 1 or round 2. Pebble Hunter, do you really think Edgerrin will last till 54? I do agree that he is the number 1 middle linebacker in most drafts. I am old enough to remember when, what's his face out of Georgia fell all the way to the Eagles in round 3. No, not Nolan Smith, not the outside. The Kobe Dean, thank you very much. Sometimes teams don't prioritize linebacker at all, and they just think, we'll wait. So what if every team picking, all 31 teams picking ahead of Cleveland, decide we'll wait, and then he's there at 54. We do see linebackers tend to fall more than where they were initially projected to go, and that's just a result of the linebacker position is not as instrumental as it once was to having a successful defense. The name of the game now is getting after the quarterback. That's not the linebacker's job. When the name of the game used to be stopping Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, and all the other great running backs, you had to have Barry Sanders, you had to have good linebackers. Not so much anymore.
It also feels like a lot of linebackers were moved around during free agency. Going off of purely just it feels like there was a lot of linebacker movement.
Yeah.
So it may not be like as big of a draft need, like you said. Most teams may just wait because they kind of feel like they already got it taken care of.
Cool Guy. If the Browns get Edgerrin Cooper at 54, you have to go live. I hope just to be live for pick 54 to begin with. The draft is just an absolute circus here at Chat Sports. We got all these different channels. Everyone wants to go live. There's just simply not enough manpower to have every single channel live. Like, from a manpower perspective and just studio space. Like, I don't think, could everyone be live at once, even if they all self-produced?
No, I think we would have to. We would have like a couple leftovers.
Yeah,
like the Titans or like Saints and Viking, like some of the smaller.
If Raiders was in A, and let's say Bears was in B.
Maine and C.
49ers in D.
49ers / Eagles in D.
Giants in E. Seahawks
F. We
have Browns still, Saints, Vikings,
Chiefs. Do we say Chiefs?
Chiefs, Dolphins. We're running out of studios really quickly, so it's always kind of a bit of a bidding war when the draft comes around. All right.
We do need more questions, by the way.
We need some more questions. That's what Trace just whispered to me. So we're going to have a mailbag next up on the show here. If you want to be guaranteed on screen, super chat like Levi Mayfield just did, right on cue, or hashtag Browns like Lil Beam and others always do in the chat. But any questions you have following free agency and before the draft, please voice them now in the chat right now with hashtag Browns.
We got a lot from Joshua Miller, so shout out to you, brother. But we'd like to get more people on the show. We want to show more love to Browns fans.
I like what Trace is cooking up over there. Levi, we'll get your super chat on screen during the mailbag. Think Barry has anything else up his sleeve? I'll answer that question in the mailbag. We're going to keep you guys wanting a little bit more. So, get those questions in if you have not already. I got Lil Beam in the chat asking a question. Josh, I know you're good for questions. Joe, Cool Guy. It's been a while since Cool Guy asked a question. DeBro's asking a question. Let's go. Cool Guy, I need the hashtag Browns, though, in the question. So please toss that in there. Lil Beam recycling a question or two. No, it'll come up with a new one, it looks like. I love it. All right. So keep getting those questions in, hashtag Browns or Super Chat. Should we kind of start off with some of the Super Chatted questions, and then we'll jump into the other ones being asked? Joshua Miller. Joshua Miller, I think, works as like a company icebreaker man. You know, the guy that comes in and he gets kind of like in the office when Michael was trying to find an activity for everyone to do. And he like called the Scranton coal mine. He's like, so you bring him down there, and then there's what? Is it like laser tag or mini golf? Does the elevator go super fast? And he just brought back ice cream sandwiches. Josh is just, he's the question master. I love it. He would just hop into any office and just start breaking ice. Start getting everyone involved, hanging out with one another. It's not pulling hashtag Browns in there? Well, that's not ideal. Do you want to just take a moment to build a couple of these? I don't know what other option we have. Levi, I saw you pull the 4 of hearts earlier. I saw that. Joshua Miller, I have a law degree. I'm learning something new every day about our wonderful viewers. Being a lawyer would be really fun if all you had to do was just be a litigator. It's not fun reading, though. That's why I could never, ever pursue a degree in law. Yeah, arguing is the fun part, but you kind of learn quickly that most lawyers don't argue at all. And that's like the cool part about being a lawyer. We've got questions from Cool Guy, from Joshua Miller, from Lil Beam. I'm looking for other ones I can send you. Hashtag Browns in the chat. For whatever reason, our computer is not pulling the questions. So Trace is going to be an absolute stud muffin and just put them in manually, which takes a little bit more time. So bear with us here. I know it's a bit of a longer break, but we're just in the process of circumventing some technical issues, thanks to the wonderful Trace Gerard. I don't want to answer these questions right now because then I kind of remove the fun. I will remind you guys, though, in the meantime, not to just be a self-plug master, we're doing a Bernie Kosar autograph helmet giveaway. $10 super chat gets you entered, and we're going to do that drawing next Tuesday. It's kind of like a month-long thing, so send a $10 super chat in today. You'll be included in that drawing for next Tuesday, just like how if you did that for previous Tuesdays in this month. So If you want to get an autographed Bernie Kosar helmet for maybe just $10, I don't know. Seems like a decent idea to me. But that's just me talking. So if you want to support the show and come away with some awesome Browns memorabilia, potentially in the process, $10 super chat, like I said, that's a great way to do so. Joe, where is the draft this year? It's in Detroit, which is very strange. Next year is in Green Bay. That's going to be a disaster. There is just not enough infrastructure in Green Bay to support the NFL draft and the tens of thousands of people that flock to it. They don't have hotels in Green Bay for like just the teams, you know what I mean? And media before like we even talk about fans. That seems like it's going to be a big headache. I don't even know where they're hosting it in Green Bay. They're doing it at Lambeau? Okay. I'm really sorry that the computer is being a bit of a biatch today. Just not pulling the questions. I don't know why. Sometimes technology has bad days. And we all know that when those days happen, you just say, we'll try again tomorrow. That tends to be the ultimate remedy to technological problems. Time Man, when will it be in Cleveland? Again? Probably not for a while. I think they might try to hit every city. After the success of the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, I do think it'd be pretty cool if the NFL just had like a 6 Super Bowl location rotation. Grind. Vegas, Miami, New Orleans, Phoenix, LA, and then the 6th one's just vacant. And that could be like a new stadium that gets built. Or like Tampa comes into the mix. Dallas, Atlanta. You can rotate Houston in there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But next year, I believe, next year it's in New Orleans, and then the following year, I believe it's in San Francisco. I think they're going back for the first time since 2015. All right, are we ready to jump into the mailbag? I'm really sorry again. I know I've had you guys sitting on the edge of your seat for our mailbag, but for whatever reason, technology was not cooperating today. But lucky for us, we got Trace Gerard behind the computer, putting everything together for us. All right, we're going to break down some of these questions and answer them. So, are we ready? All right, let's do it. Mailbag time here on the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson answering questions from our live show, which aired Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. First one comes in from downtown Coffee Black Funky Stuff Malone. What do you think about trading for Khalil Herbert? No, that's not a bad idea. If I think about the Bears running back room for a second, they signed DeAndre Swift to a 3-year contract. They drafted Roschon Johnson out of Texas last year. That appears to be the 1-2 punch they want to go with moving forward. So you've got Khalil Herbert, who was a starting running back for this team last year, and he dealt with injuries a little bit here or there, but he has been a really good running back, just hasn't really had the opportunity to play that full 17-game season as a starter. I mean, last year, 4.6 yards a carry. Sure, he hasn't had the amount of usage to warrant or to say without any sort of hesitation he could be an RB1. But then if you look at Khalil Herbert's 3 seasons in Chicago and you think about what the first month or first half of 2024 could look like if Nick Chubb misses 6, 7, 8 weeks, God forbid. I mean, look at the Browns running back room here for a second. Jerome Ford, Naheem Hines, those are your other 2 backs, of course. I don't think the Bears are going to be asking for a whole lot. They only have 4 picks in the draft after making trades to get like Keenan Allen, for example. Other moves as well, offensive line from the Bills, Ryan Bates. So with the Bears having a skinny amount of draft picks and the Browns needing a running back, Khalil Herbert for a late day 3 pick for a guy that's RB3 on his team right now just because the Bears went out in free agency and signed a bigger and better guy in DeAndre Swift, and they drafted Roschon Johnson last year. And it's not that Khalil Herbert's been bad. I think the stats for the last 3 years speak for themselves. He could be a really good fit in Cleveland to help bridge the gap until Nick Chubb returns. So let me ask you this question. What is your confidence level in Jerome Ford and Nyheim Hines? Mine's not high at all. I would put it at a 3.3. I would love a trade for Khalil Herbert if it doesn't cost you very much at all. Day 3 pick. If he entered this year's draft, I think he'd probably go a little bit earlier than where you could get him with a draft pick. The Bears get a pick for a guy that's RB3 on their roster, and the Browns get a nice, facelift to Jerome Ford and Nyheim Hines for who knows how long until Nick Chubb returns. I'd much rather have a 3-back committee, especially if one of those 2 guys got injured. All of a sudden, you've got John Kelly and Pierre Strong Jr. taking on a serious workload. I think Khalil Herbert is better than Jerome Ford and Nyheim Hines. So, yeah, I think that'd be a really fun trade for the Browns to pursue. Levi Mayfield. Do you think Barry has anything else up his sleeve? Not until after the draft would be my inclination. I think he probably wants to get through the draft, see who he was able to land in the draft, and then after the draft go, all right, I was really hoping I could improve this room. Just board didn't shake out the way I was hoping for. All the good linebackers were gone or running backs or whatever it may be. So maybe that's when he makes a trade. Plus, make a trade after the draft, you get to give away a 2025 draft pick. So you get the player for the full season and you got to use this past year's draft pick. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 special. Lil Beam, next one up. If you're Andrew Berry and a team is offering a 2025 fifth-round pick for Tyler Huntley or DTR, who are you trading? Really good question. I would say you're probably trading DTR. I'm not quite sure that he's the best schematic fit for the Ken Dorsey type offense we're probably going to see this upcoming season. I think DTR improved last year. I think he got better as the games and the starts went along. But I do think Tyler Huntley's a better quarterback than Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And I know we're kind of just splitting hairs over QB3 at this point. But if I had to pick Huntley or DTR to start a game, I'd pick Huntley, which means I'd rather trade DTR. Brad, number 1 Browns fan. How did the Steelers get Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick, but we decided to get Jameis Winston? Keep in mind the Bears seems like took a lesser offer from Pittsburgh to accommodate Fields the most they could because that was his preferred destination, it sounds like. So if the Browns called an offer to 6, the Browns may not have gotten Justin Fields. Other teams offered more than what the Pittsburgh Steelers did. But the Bears wanted to do right by Fields. So don't look at that 6th-rounder thinking, we could have had Fields for a 6. No, unlikely. Maybe if you offered a 4th, the Bears would have said, all right, screw it, we're going to take a 4th and run. But I don't think a 5th would have gotten it done. Now, as for Jameis Winston, I know it's not Joe Flacco. And listen, I was excited for a potential Flacco return as well. But Jameis Winston is one hell of a consolation prize. It may not sound super fun, but come August, we're going to have entertaining preseason games because Jameis Winston is out there throwing touchdowns and pick sixes. Jameis Winston will have all-time audio moments with a live mic. We need him mic'd up every single game. Jameis Winston has always been there to support his teammates, uplift them no matter what role he has been in, helping the starter get in a position to be successful. So I'm very okay with Jameis Winston being this team's backup. Cool guy called Zone. Do you think the Browns trade Cooper nearing the end of the 2024-2025 season? They paid Jeudy so much that you don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. What do you think? I don't think they trade Amari Cooper unless the season has really spiraled out of control, like bad, and the Browns know they're not going to the playoffs and the team gives them a good offer for a receiver on an expiring contract. That would really be the only way I see Cleveland moving on from Amari Cooper. But no, I don't think if all things are going well, the Browns decide, all right, now let's trade Cooper and get a draft pick before he leaves in free agency. Now, if you've got a good thing going here, don't rock the boat. Take that awesome wide receiver into the playoffs with you. So you say nearing the end, I'll add NFL trade deadline. Unless they push it back during the owners' meeting, it's going to be where it's always been, right around Halloween, which is a little bit too early to say definitively whether you are in or out unless you get off to a disastrous start. The Bros, are you excited about Quentin Jefferson? I am. The Browns had 3 defensive tackles hit free agency. They brought back 2. That's pretty much what I was projecting all along. It was just a question of Maurice Hurst and Shelby Harris or Jordan Elliott. And they went with Shelby Harris. Quentin Jefferson comes off a career-high year with the New York Jets, and he's going to have some nice pass rush upside. So you can kind of already start thinking about Jim Schwartz and Mike Vrabel now drooling over the third and obvious passing situation with Zadarius Smith, Okoronkwo, Quentin Jefferson, and Myles Garrett all on the field, just headhunting the quarterback. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about on this signing here. I also was just not a big Jordan Elliott fan, and sorry, Niners fans, I think it's an overpay. It's only 2 years, $10 million, so not that big of a deal, to be honest with you. And hey, good for him for getting a nice, contract in free agency. But I thought Jordan Elliott was the worst of the 3 defensive tackle free agents, and he got the most money. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way the Browns went about adding defensive tackles. Ray Bidding, how do you think the Browns team is shaping up versus the rest of the AFC North at this point? The Ravens have had a lot of roster turnover. A lot of guys come in, a lot of guys go out. They lost Patrick Queen. They lost Geno Stone. They brought in Derrick Henry. History says Derrick Henry won't be good. And I say that because the last guy to be 30 years plus and have 1,100 plus yards was LeGarrette Blount in 2016. So I'm not too concerned about the offseason additions the Ravens have made. And I think they're going to miss Patrick Queen and Geno Stone a lot. But the Ravens always have a habit of replacing guys in the draft with ease. The Bengals, they made some minor-ish moves. They just had to get Joe Burrow healthy. That was really the major point of emphasis for them this offseason. If Joe's healthy, they're going to be competitive. As for the Steelers, I'm not very concerned about the Steelers. I don't think Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. And sure, that defense carried them to the playoffs last year. But I'm also of the belief of, and this applies to the Browns too, you can't bank on defense every single year. The Steelers have been making that bet, and I think their luck's about to run out, where, sure, they've got a good defense, but defenses are inconsistent year to year. Offenses stay consistent from year to year. And at some point, I feel like the Steelers' defensive juice will run out of gas when they are once again being called upon to bail out a bad offense. DeBros, what is the biggest trade the Browns can still make? Well, biggest trade would be what can you get with pick 54 or a future first rounder. I don't think, their trade history will tell us they would go for a wide receiver. That's how they built their entire wide receiver room. I think they feel pretty confident about the wide receivers they currently have, right? They traded for all those guys for a reason. Why trade for another player just to take away snaps from those 3 previous receivers you traded for, Cooper, Jeudy, and Moore, or trade for another wide receiver for him to get no snaps because you traded for all those other guys, right? Andrew Berry has his hand-picked wide receivers. So I don't think it's going to be a move for a wide receiver, if any. Maybe, I don't think they're making a move for a linebacker. That's just never been Andrew Berry's history. Can never have too many pass rushers. I would say the biggest move would be a running back. Like if they get bad news on Nick Chubb's rehab, they may decide, all right, well, we had a plan in place of Chubb returns by this date. Now that we know that's not happening, we have to start over because we can't do Jerome Ford and Naheem Hines for the full season. So I think a running back trade would be the biggest they could make or the next potential big move, but that's very dependent, 100% contingent on Nick Chubb not playing pretty much all of 2024 for them to get to that stage. All right, that will do it for us on this mailbag today. Trizzy Trace, which card do you want to pick?
I'm going to pick my card in a second, but one name I want Browns fans to keep an eye out for, maybe Alvin Kamara as a trade in the middle of the season, close to the deadline. If the Saints don't restructure his contract, maybe that's a team or a player that could be moved. Just going to put that out there for those of you guys who are interested. But I'm going to go with my card, the 10 of spades.
10 of spades. Give me 5 of diamonds.
I like it.
No, I saw the top one, so I can't do it. All right, one more cut. Ace of clubs. Ace of clubs. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Appreciate everyone once again for tuning into another edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. And hey, if you're still watching right now, scroll on down to the comment section. Type me. It's a good way for me to know who the end of the video crew is. Do you like the Jerry Jeudy contract extension? I keep metrics and stats on all the cards picked. I've got a full Excel sheet and everything. Yeah, I'll read out. You guys may, since we're kind of with the OGs watching right now at the end of the show anyway.
I like this.
You may like some of the stats. All right, you ready?
Hit me.
So, for example, the card that's been picked the most, like just the number, not suit specific, has been a 4. 18 times it's been drawn in this pick a card history.
Interesting.
The fewest aces, now only 8 times. So a big disparity between 4s at 18 and aces at 8. 10 more times the 4s have been picked.
You want to hear the best example of Murphy's Law?
What's that?
Are the questions we're pulling now.
Oh, my goodness.
Love it.
The suit that's been picked the most, clubs, 49 times.
Okay.
Actually, just 50 now at that ace one.
Interesting.
The least amount, diamonds, 38.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So your best bet is
4 clubs, which, by the way, gets picked often. The last time 4 clubs was picked March 8th, 10 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's been picked, I think, twice or 3 times this offseason.
That's pretty wild.
I think the ultimate best bet, and I know this isn't really true, pick one number and stick with it.
See, I was literally just
because it's eventually it's gonna come.
I was thinking that actually right before. I was like, I need to pick one, and that's the one I roll with.
But if you keep
week.
picking different ones, then you'll just be like one day ahead or one day behind on that card being selected.
Yep.
If you just pick 4 clubs every single time, you'd have like 3 wins this offseason.
I'm gonna start picking one. I'm gonna start picking one card every time.
Joshua Miller, final 4 picks go UK Wildcats. I disagree. Go Vols. I have Kentucky losing in round number 1. My final 4 picks are Houston. I know that's kind of basic, but I just think they're that unstoppable this year. UConn, which we haven't seen a team win the Natty and then escape the first weekend of the tournament in a long time, 6 or 7 years. I think since Butler went back-to-back. Maybe it was done a little bit more recent, but it's been a while. Someone can fact-check me. I've got this is no longer the cool, trendy pick because everyone's doing it, but I got the New Mexico Lobos. Rick Pitino's son is their coach. They're the hottest team out of the Mountain West, a good conference this year in basketball. I don't like UNC in general, and that's the 1 seed in their quadrant. Same goes for Arizona. They got knocked out in the first weekend last year against Princeton. So I kind of like a Cinderella number 11 seed going all the way to the Final 4. And then I just went super homer, and I went Tennessee. Because I had Tennessee losing, though, in the Final 4, and it's UConn and Houston in the Natty, and Houston cutting down the nets over UConn. But those are my Final 4 picks. Let me know what Final 4 picks you guys got, or like any March Madness bold or hot takes. I've got a couple of good takes. I do think that every single year there's a Cinderella team that everyone's in on before, and they just get their ass kicked in the first round. Kind of wondering if that's McNeese State.
Certainly could be a culprit.
Yeah. Everyone's in on them, so it's no longer cool.
Yeah,
that's the rule.
That's the thing. Cinderella stories are only cool if you make a good run. Can't win one game. Gotta win multiple.
Yep. Quick reminder, by the way, $10 super chat will get you entered into our Bernie Kosar autographed helmet giveaway. We're doing that at the end of the month, so next Tuesday. But every single super chat, carries over from week to week. So we're gonna tally them all up before next Tuesday, and then have the drawing. See who comes home with an autographed Bernie Kosar helmet. If we get some more super chats, we can stay live. Otherwise, producer Trace, once again, kind enough to hang out with us on Tuesday, but he's got some Saints gear to get to, so we don't want to hold him up for too long. So more super chats mean we can hold on to Studio B. Otherwise, it's deuces from your guy. Let's see. I want to get some shout-outs, though. Cool Guy says me. Tie Man says me. Jacob Kistner's here. Jacob, good to see you, man. My card is 10 of diamonds. I claim it. It's all yours. 10 of diamonds, though. The last time 10 of diamonds was picked, oh, my God. You're not going to believe this. 10 of diamonds has never been picked. Really? According to my spreadsheet. No, because it wasn't picked. Did we pick it today? No. Ten of Diamonds has never been picked. Ace of Diamonds has never been picked. And King of Clubs has never been picked.
Is that just for this offseason or all time?
All time.
Wow.
Yeah. 171 drawings.
That's actually crazy.
Damn. Okay. Josh, Kentucky Wildcats are way too streaky this year. That defense is awful. They got into a big home shootout with, was it Arkansas, I think, that went into Kentucky? This was like a little while ago. But both teams scored over 100 points.
Yeah, I don't think it was Arkansas. Let me
look. Maybe it was South Carolina.
I think it was South Carolina.
Yeah.
Arkansas's big game was against Duke.
They beat them?
Yes. Beat them early in the season just to not make the tournament.
Yeah, what a disappointing year for them.
Yeah. Oh, well. It'd be like that.
Kentucky's big shootout game. They beat Georgia. They let Georgia put up 96 on them. That is alarming. Oh, Alabama. 117 to 95. So, yeah, offense is real. Defense is trash. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Thank you guys so much for always hanging out with us every Tuesday afternoon. 84 people still watching right now. It means more to me than maybe you'll ever know, because my favorite part of my job is hanging out with you guys during a live show. So you have no idea how much I appreciate people spending their time hanging out with us. We will let you get on out of here. We will reconvene later. Go Brownies in the meantime.